Dr. Lisa Martinez stared at the numbers on her computer screen. She had been working for 18 hours straight, and her eyes burned from the bright light. Coffee cups covered her desk, most of them empty and cold. The underground lab in Nevada was quiet except for the hum of machines and the soft clicking of her keyboard. "This has to work," she whispered to herself. It has to. For 3 years, Lisa had been trying to solve the biggest problem in human history. How do you travel faster than light? Other scientists had tried for decades. They all failed. But Lisa had a different idea. While everyone else tried to bend space like folding paper, she wanted to cut through it. The idea came to her in a dream. What if space wasn't really solid? What if you could make tiny holes in it and step through to somewhere else? Like cutting a door in a wall instead of walking around the building. Jack Peterson walked into the lab carrying 2 fresh cups of coffee. He was the best engineer Lisa knew, and he had been helping her build the strange machine for months. "Still working?" Jack asked, setting a cup next to her computer. "I think I found it," Lisa said. Her voice was shaky with excitement. "The equation that makes it possible." Jack looked at the screen. The math was too hard for him to understand, but he could see that Lisa was excited. "Are you sure?" "Look at this." Lisa pointed to a line of numbers. "If we use enough power, we can make the space around an object unstable. Not bent, but actually torn, like ripping fabric." Amy Walsh came over from her desk across the room. She was the team's math expert, and if anyone could check Lisa's work, it was her. "Show me," Amy said. Lisa explained her idea. Instead of bending space-time like a curve, her drive would create tiny holes that went through higher dimensions. An object could step through these holes and come out somewhere else instantly. Amy studied the equations for 20 minutes. Her face was serious as she worked through each step. Finally, she looked up. "Lisa, this is impossible," Amy said. "But the math is correct," Jack grinned. "So it's impossible math that actually works." "That's the best kind," Lisa laughed. The team spent the next week building a test device. It was small, about the size of a microwave, but it needed enormous amounts of power. They connected it to the lab's main reactor and held their breath. "First test," Lisa announced. "We're going to try to move a steel ball 1 meter." She placed a small metal ball inside the device and sealed the door. Jack powered up the machine while Amy watched the computer readings. "Power at 50%, Jack called out. "Readings look normal," Amy said. "Power at 75%, Jack said. The machine started to vibrate. "Still normal," Amy reported. "Full power," Jack said. There was a bright flash of purple light. The machine stopped vibrating. Lisa opened the door and looked inside. The steel ball was gone. "Where did it go?" Jack asked. Amy pointed to a spot 1 meter away. There. The steel ball was sitting on a table exactly 1 meter from the machine. It had moved through solid air and appeared in the right place. "We did it," Lisa whispered. "We actually did it." But this was just the beginning. Over the next month, they built a bigger version. This one could move objects much farther. They tested it with a probe the size of a small car. "Today, we try something big," Lisa said. "We're going to send our probe to the nearest star." The probe was loaded with cameras and sensors. If everything worked, it would travel 4 light years in just a few hours and send back pictures. The new machine was 10 times bigger than their first test device. It needed so much power that they had to connect it to 3 different reactors. The probe sat in the middle of the machine, waiting. "All systems ready," Jack reported. "Math checks out," Amy confirmed. Lisa took a deep breath. "Begin the test." Jack started the power sequence. This time, the machine didn't just vibrate. It made a deep humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The air around the probe started to shimmer like heat waves. "Power at 90%, Jack called out. The humming got louder. Small objects in the lab started to shake. "Full power." There was no flash this time. Instead, the space around the probe seemed to tear open like ripped cloth. Through the tear, they could see stars and darkness. The probe moved forward and disappeared through the hole. Then the tear closed with a sound like thunder. "Probe is gone," Amy said, checking her readings. "Signal lost." They waited for 4 hours. Then Amy's computer started beeping. "Signal detected," she shouted. "The probe is transmitting." Pictures appeared on their screens. Alien stars. A red sun they had never seen before. The probe had traveled to another star system and was sending back proof. "We're the first humans to travel faster than light," Lisa said. She felt tears in her eyes. But something else had happened during their test. Something they didn't know about yet. Far across the galaxy, alien scientists noticed strange readings on their instruments. Gravitational waves were moving through. Space in patterns they had never seen before. The waves were strong enough to shake planets and disturb star systems. The aliens traced the waves back to their source. A small yellow star with 9 planets. The third planet was blue and green and covered with water. "What are those creatures doing?" asked an alien scientist on a space station 50 light years from Earth. "I don't know," replied his partner. "But they're doing something that could destroy everything." Messages began traveling between alien worlds. Emergency meetings were called. Ancient councils gathered to discuss the new threat. On Earth, Lisa and her team celebrated their success. They had no idea that every major civilization in the galaxy was now watching them with fear. The age of human space travel had begun. But it had also started something much bigger and more dangerous than they could imagine. 6 months after Lisa's successful test, humans had built their first real faster-than-light spaceship. The Terra Nova was beautiful, with smooth white walls and blue lights along its sides. It was as big as a city block and carried a crew of 200 people. Captain Ryan Burke stood on the bridge looking out at the stars. He was a calm man with gray hair who had spent 20 years flying regular spaceships around Earth's solar system. But today was different. Today, he would be the first human to pilot a ship between the stars. "All systems ready, Captain," said Kevin Stone, the ship's chief engineer. Kevin was young but smart, and he understood the new void drive better than anyone except Lisa herself. "Communications are clear," reported Beth Collins from her station. Beth had learned 6 different alien languages in the past month, just in case they met someone out there. "Dr. Martinez, is the drive ready?" Captain Burke asked. Lisa nodded from her position at the science station. She had insisted on coming aboard for this first trip. After all, it was her invention. "Destination is the Alpha Centauri system," Captain Burke announced. 4 light years from Earth. Estimated travel time, 6 hours. Back on Earth, Admiral Nina Harper watched from Mission Control. She was in charge of all human space activities, and this mission made her nervous. Humans were about to leave there. Solar system for the first time ever. "Terra Nova, you are cleared for departure," Admiral Harper said into her microphone. The void drive powered up with the same deep humming sound they had heard in the lab. Space around the ship began to shimmer and tear. Through the hole, they could see distant stars. "Here we go," Captain Burke said. The Terra Nova moved forward and vanished from Earth's solar system. What the humans didn't know was that their test 6 months ago had been noticed by many alien civilizations. One of these was the Zephyrian Commonwealth, a group of peaceful worlds that traded with each other across the galaxy. Ambassador Veltar was a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and large silver eyes. He had been watching Earth ever since his people detected the strange gravitational waves. Now he sat in his own ship, hidden behind Earth's moon, waiting to see what the humans would do next. When the Terra Nova disappeared into its void tunnel, Veltar's instruments went wild. The readings showed something that made his blood run cold. The human ship wasn't just traveling through space. It was damaging space itself. By the ancient stars, Veltar whispered. They don't know what they're doing. 6 hours later, the Terra Nova returned from Alpha Centauri. The mission was a complete success. Captain Burke and his crew had taken pictures of alien planets and collected scientific data. Everyone on Earth celebrated, but Veltar knew he had to act quickly. The humans were playing with forces that could destroy entire star systems. It was time for first contact. 3 days later, Veltar's ship appeared above Earth's largest city. It was impossible to miss. A silver disk 2 miles wide that reflected sunlight like a mirror. Admiral Harper was in an emergency meeting within an hour. They're not attacking, she told the world's leaders over a video call. The ship is just sitting there. Have they tried to communicate? Asked the president. Yes, ma'am. They're broadcasting on every frequency we know. The message is simple. They want to talk. Beth Collins was brought to Mission Control to help translate. The alien language was musical, like singing, but she had studied it from radio signals her team had been secretly collecting. They say their leader wants to meet with our scientists, Beth reported. Specifically, the people who built our new space drive. Lisa was called to the meeting. When she arrived at Mission Control, she saw Admiral Harper talking to a hologram of the alien ambassador. Veltar was impressive in person. His blue skin had silver patterns that moved like flowing water. His forearms gestured gracefully as he spoke. Dr. Martinez, Admiral Harper said, meet Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Commonwealth. He says he wants to learn about your void drive. Lisa stepped forward. Through Beth's translation, she could speak with the alien directly. Your invention is remarkable, Veltar said, but I must understand how it works. For the safety of everyone, I'd be happy to show you, Lisa replied. She was excited to meet an alien scientist. A demonstration was arranged. The Terra Nova would perform a short jump while Veltar's ship watched and recorded everything. Captain Burke took the Terra Nova to a safe distance from Earth. Veltar's ship followed, its sensors aimed at the human vessel. Beginning void drive test, Captain Burke announced. Lisa activated the drive from the science station. The familiar humming filled the ship. Space began to tear around them. On Veltar's ship, alarms started screaming. Ambassador, his science officer called out. The humans are creating subspace fractures across 12 light years. Veltar watched his instruments in horror. The human ship wasn't just making a small hole in space. It was cracking the foundation of reality itself. The damage was spreading outward like cracks in broken glass. Stop them, Veltar ordered. Signal them to stop immediately. But it was too late. The Terra Nova had already jumped and returned. To the humans, everything had gone perfectly. Excellent test, Captain Burke reported. All systems normal. Veltar's ship approached the Terra Nova. The ambassador requested an immediate private meeting with Dr. Martinez. Your technology, Veltar said when they met, it is far more dangerous than you realize. Dangerous? Lisa was confused. But it works perfectly. Yes, it works. But each time you use it, you damage the structure of space itself. The cracks spread far beyond your ship. If you make them big enough, or use the drive too often, you could tear holes that never close. Lisa felt cold fear creep up her spine. What would happen then? Star systems would be consumed. Planets would disappear. The damage could spread across the entire galaxy. Back on his ship, Veltar composed an urgent message to the Galactic Council. His 4 hands moved quickly across different control panels. As he wrote, "Emergency report from Ambassador Veltar, Zephyrian Commonwealth. Subject: critical threat from Sol 3 species. The humans have developed FTL technology that creates permanent subspace damage. Immediate council intervention required. This could be a galaxy-ending threat." He sent the message through the fastest communication channels available. Within hours, it would reach the council chambers on Kepler Prime. On Earth, Admiral Harper noticed that Ambassador Veltar seemed nervous after the demonstration. His musical voice had become higher and faster. His silver patterns moved more quickly across his blue skin. "Is everything all right, Ambassador?" she asked. "Yes, of course," Veltar replied, but his large eyes looked worried. "I simply need to discuss your remarkable technology with my people." That night, as Earth celebrated its successful demonstration to an alien species, Veltar's message was causing panic in the highest levels of galactic government. The Galactic Council was about to face the biggest crisis in its 1,000-year history, and the humans who had caused it had no idea what was coming. On the planet Kepler Prime, in the center of the galaxy, stood a building unlike any other. The council hall was made of crystal that changed colors with the light of 3 different suns. Inside, representatives from 47 different worlds gathered for emergency meetings that could decide the fate of entire civilizations. Council President Isara was an ancient being whose people had been traveling between stars for over 10,000 years. Her skin looked like moving starlight, and her voice could speak in frequencies that most species couldn't even hear. Today, she was more worried than she had been in centuries. "We face a crisis," she announced to the assembled representatives. "A young species has developed technology that threatens the stability of space itself." The great chamber fell silent. Representatives from dozens of different worlds looked at each other with concern. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and a few were made of pure energy contained in metal suits. But they all understood the seriousness of what they were hearing. Veltar stood up from his seat. His blue skin was pale with worry as he activated a holographic display. "I have observed the humans of Sol 3 directly," he said. "Their void drive technology tears holes in the fabric of reality. Each use creates damage that spreads across multiple star systems." The hologram showed recordings from the Terra Nova's demonstration. To most species, it looked like normal FTL travel. But the scientific readings told a different story. "The subspace fractures extend 12 light years from their ship," Veltar continued. "If they continue to improve this technology, the damage could become permanent." War Commander Kethrak of the Draknari Empire slammed his armored fist on his desk. The Draknari were a warrior species who had conquered dozens of worlds before joining the council. Kethrak was 8 feet tall, covered in red scales, and had never met a problem he couldn't solve with violence. "The solution is simple," Kethrak growled. "Destroy their world before they destroy ours." "That would make us no better than the threat we're trying to stop," replied Elder Santher of the Centauri Collective. Santher was old even by the standards of his long-lived people. His gray skin was covered in intricate tattoos that told the history of his species. He had been a diplomat for over 300 years. "The humans don't know what they're doing," Santher continued. "They're like children playing with fire. We should teach them, not destroy them." A representative from the ethereal conclave floated forward. The ethereals were beings of pure thought who had given up physical bodies millions of years ago. When they spoke, their words appeared directly in everyone's mind. "The calculations are disturbing," the ethereal communicated. "If the humans increase their drive power by just 50%, they could create a permanent rift. If they double it, the rift could consume their entire star system." President Tisara called for order as arguments broke out across the chamber. Some representatives wanted immediate military action. Others demanded diplomatic contact. A few suggested simply hiding and hoping the humans would destroy themselves before anyone else got hurt. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Lisa Martinez had no idea that her invention was being discussed by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. She was in her lab, working on improvements to the Void Drive with her research assistant Tony Adams and security chief Greg Sullivan. "Look at these power readings," Lisa said excitedly. "If we increase the energy input by 60%, we can triple the range of the drive." Tony, a young scientist fresh out of college, looked at the numbers with admiration. "That would let us reach the other side of the galaxy in just a few days." Greg Sullivan was a former military officer who was supposed to keep the lab secure, but he had become fascinated by the science behind the Void Drive. "What about safety limits?" he asked. "The math says it's perfectly safe," Lisa replied. "The void tunnels are self-stabilizing. The bigger we make them, the more stable they become." She was wrong, but she had no way of knowing that. Human science was thousands of years behind the rest of the galaxy. They understood how to make the Void Drive work, but they didn't understand the long-term consequences. Back on Kepler Prime, the council had been debating for 6 hours. Finally, President Tissara called for a vote on 3 options. "Option 1, she announced, immediate military intervention to stop human FTL research. Kethrak and 12 other representatives raised their hands. Option 2, complete technological quarantine of the Sol system. No contact, no interference. Let them solve their own problems. 8 representatives voted for this option. Option 3, diplomatic contact to guide the humans toward safer technology. 26 representatives raised their hands, including Veltar and Elder Santher. The motion passes, President Tissara declared. We will attempt diplomatic contact with the humans. Elder Santher was chosen to lead the diplomatic mission. His people had successfully negotiated peace treaties with dozens of different species. If anyone could convince the humans to change their technology, it would be him. I will take a full diplomatic convoy, Santher said. We must show the humans that we come in peace, but also that we represent a powerful alliance. I request permission to escort the diplomatic mission, Kethrak said, standing up. For security purposes. Several representatives objected, but President Tissara allowed it. You may position a small fleet at the edge of the Sol system, but you will not enter unless the diplomatic mission is threatened. Kethrak smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Of course, purely for security. As the council session ended, Elder Santher began preparing for the most important diplomatic mission of his career. He selected his best translators, cultural specialists, and scientists. The convoy would include 5 ships, all designed to look peaceful but equipped with powerful defensive systems. What Santher didn't know was that Kethrak was preparing his own fleet. The war commander had convinced his superiors that the humans represented an immediate threat. He would follow the diplomatic convoy with 30 warships, ready to attack at the first sign of trouble. On Earth, Lisa made another breakthrough. Working late into the night, she discovered a way to make the Void Drive even more efficient. Tony, look at this, she called out. If we modify the containment field, we can create permanent void rifts that stay open for hours. Permanent rifts? Tony asked. What would we use those for? Imagine instant travel between star systems, Lisa explained. Like having doorways between different worlds. We could build a network of rifts that connect the entire galaxy. Greg Sullivan felt a chill run down his spine. Something about permanent rifts sounded dangerous, but he couldn't explain why. Maybe we should test this more carefully, he suggested. Don't worry, Lisa said. I've run the calculations 100 times. It's perfectly safe. 3 days later, Elder Sonther's diplomatic convoy left Kepler Prime. The ships were beautiful, with smooth curves and silver hulls that reflected starlight like mirrors. They traveled at normal FTL speeds, taking their time to plan their approach to Earth. One day behind them, Kethruck's war fleet followed in darkness. The Draknari ships were black and angular, designed to strike fear into their enemies. Kethruck sat on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars and planning for war. "War Commander," his tactical officer reported, "our spies confirm that the humans are continuing to improve their void drive technology." "Good," Kethruck replied. "That gives us justification for what comes next." On Earth, Admiral Nina Harper received a message that changed everything. Long-range sensors had detected multiple alien fleets approaching the solar system. Some appeared peaceful, but others looked like warships. "Get me Dr. Martinez immediately," Admiral Harper ordered, "and start preparing our defenses. I think we're about to have visitors." The age of innocence was ending for humanity. Soon they would learn that their greatest achievement might also be their greatest mistake. Elder Sonther's diplomatic convoy appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, like silver stars against the darkness. His 5 ships moved slowly and carefully, broadcasting peaceful messages in every language they knew. On Earth, President Lavra Kim sat in the emergency meeting room with her top advisors. The room was deep underground, protected by thick concrete and steel. Around the table sat Admiral Nina Harper, Defense Secretary Matt Rodriguez, and Dr. Carol Stevens, the President's science advisor. 5 alien ships moving toward Earth at normal speed, Admiral Harper reported. "They're broadcasting messages of peace, but our translators are still working on the language." "What about the other fleet?" President Kim asked. "Still there, hiding behind Jupiter. We count at least 30 ships, and they look like warships." Defense Secretary Rodriguez leaned forward. He was a former general who had spent his whole career preparing for war. This could be a classic military tactic. "Send diplomats to distract us while the real fleet gets into position." Dr. Stevens shook her head. "The peaceful ships are clearly different from the war fleet. I think we really are dealing with 2 separate groups." President Kim made her decision. "We'll meet with the diplomats, but keep our defenses ready." 6 hours later, Elder Sonther's ship landed at the United Nations building in New York. The alien diplomat was impressive to see in person. His gray skin was covered in moving tattoos that seemed to tell stories. His eyes were large and wise, and when he spoke, his voice was calm and musical. "President Kim," Sonther said through his translator device, "I come representing the Galactic Council. We need to discuss your faster-than-light technology." The meeting took place in the UN's largest conference room. Lisa Martinez had been flown in from Nevada, along with several other scientists. Elder Sonther brought his own science team, including experts who had studied void phenomena for thousands of years. "Your void drive technology is remarkable," Sonther began, "but it is also extremely dangerous. Each time you use it, you damage the structure of space itself." Lisa felt confused. "But our tests show that the void tunnels close completely after use." One of Sonther's scientists activated a holographic display. It showed the space around Earth, but with layers that human instruments couldn't detect. "Look here," the alien scientist explained. "Each time your ships travel, they leave invisible cracks in subspace. These cracks are spreading throughout your solar system." Dr. Stevens studied the display with growing alarm. "You're saying that every time we use FTL travel, we're weakening the fabric of space?" "Exactly," Sonther replied. "And if the cracks become large enough, they could create permanent tears that consume everything around them." Defense Secretary Rodriguez stood up suddenly. "Wait a minute. You're telling us to stop using our most important technology." How do we know this isn't just a trick to keep humanity from exploring the galaxy? Secretary Rodriguez, President Kim said quietly. Please sit down. But Rodriguez was angry. These aliens show up with a war fleet, then tell us our technology is dangerous. It sounds like they're trying to scare us into giving up our only advantage. Elder Santher raised his hands peacefully. We understand your suspicion, but please, let us show you the true danger. At that moment, Dr. Martinez received an urgent message on her phone. It was from her lab in Nevada. I'm sorry, Lisa said, but I need to take this call. It's about our latest test. She stepped outside the conference room and spoke with Tony Adams, who was back at the lab. Dr. Martinez, Tony said excitedly. We did it. The permanent void rift is working perfectly. We can keep a portal open for hours now. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Tony shut down the test immediately. What? But it's working great. Captain Burke is taking the Terra Nova through right now to test the stable portal. Shut it down now, Lisa shouted, but it was too late. In space near Earth's moon, Captain Burke piloted the Terra Nova through, Lisa's newest creation, a permanent void rift that stayed open like a doorway between star systems. The rift was beautiful, swirling with purple and silver light. This is amazing, Burke told his crew. It's like flying through a tunnel of stars. But engineer Steve Parker was watching his instruments with growing worry. Captain, I'm seeing some strange readings. The rift is pulling in debris from around us. Navigator Kelly Wright pointed out the window. Look at those asteroids. Small asteroids near the rift were being drawn toward it, like metal to a magnet. As they touched the edge of the rift, they simply disappeared. The rift is growing, Parker reported. It's feeding on matter and getting bigger. Shut down the void drive, Burke ordered. I'm trying, but it's not responding. The rift has become self-sustaining. Back on Earth, Elder Santher felt his translator device buzzing with emergency alerts. His ship was detecting massive subspace disturbances near Earth's moon. What have you done? He asked Lisa, who had just returned to the conference room. Looking pale. We tested a permanent void rift, Lisa admitted. But something went wrong. Defense Secretary Rodriguez pointed an accusing finger at Santher. This is too convenient. You show up warning us about our technology, and suddenly our test goes wrong. You sabotaged us. We did nothing, Santher protested. This is exactly what we came to prevent. Hidden behind Jupiter, War Commander Kethrak watched the expanding void rift through his ship's sensors. To his military mind, it looked like a weapon test. They're testing a planet-killer weapon while pretending to negotiate, he told his officers. This proves they're hostile. What are our orders, War Commander? His tactical officer asked. Signal a fleet. We attack now before they can use that weapon against us. 30 Draknari warships left their hiding place behind Jupiter and flew toward Earth at maximum speed. Their black hulls gleamed with weapon systems charging for battle. On Earth, Admiral Harper's defense center exploded with alarms. Admiral, her communications officer shouted. The alien war fleet is moving. They're heading straight for us. Battle stations, Harper ordered. Launch all available ships. Captain Chris Morgan, commander of Earth's newest warship, New Frontier, received the alert in his quarters. Within minutes, he was on his bridge, leading Earth's small but determined defense fleet toward what looked like an invasion. All ships, this is Admiral Harper, came the voice over the radio. We are facing an alien attack force. Protect Earth at all costs. The Terra Nova was still trapped near the growing void rift, which had now consumed dozens of asteroids and was pulling in larger debris. Captain Burke and his crew watched helplessly as Earth's defense fleet and the alien warships moved toward. Each other. We have to stop this, Burke said. This is all a misunderstanding. Engineer Parker looked at his readings. Captain, if we can't shut down this rift soon, it might consume the entire solar system. On the planet's surface, President Kim watched the developing space battle with horror. Elder Santher stood beside her, equally shocked. This was not supposed to happen, Santher said sadly. We came in peace. Can you call off your warships? President Kim asked. They're not ours, Santher replied. They belong to a faction that wanted military action from the beginning. Defense Secretary Rodriguez drew his sidearm and pointed it at the alien diplomat. You planned this whole thing. Secretary Rodriguez, stand down. President Kim ordered. But the damage was done. Earth and the galaxy were now at war, all because of a terrible misunderstanding. And somewhere near the moon, a void rift continued to grow, threatening to consume everything in its path. The next few hours would determine whether humanity survived its first contact with galactic civilization, or whether both species would be destroyed by the very technology that was supposed to bring them together. The space battle erupted around Jupiter as Earth's defense fleet met the charging Draknari warships. Laser beams and plasma bolts lit up the darkness between the planets. Captain Chris Morgan's new frontier led the human ships in a desperate fight against an enemy they didn't understand. Enemy ships are more advanced than ours, Morgan reported to Admiral Harper. But we're not giving up. Near Earth's moon, the void rift continued to grow larger. It had consumed hundreds of asteroids and was now pulling in pieces of space debris from across the solar system. Captain Burke and his crew on the Terra Nova were trapped, unable to escape the rift's pull. The rift is now 3 miles wide. Engineer Steve Parker reported, and it's still growing. Navigator Kelly Wright pointed at her instruments. Captain, if this thing keeps expanding at this rate, it will reach Earth in 6 hours. Burke made a decision that would change everything. Open all communication channels. Broadcast to both fleets. Sir? Parker asked. This whole war started because nobody's talking to each other. Someone needs to stop the fighting before we all get consumed by that thing. Burke's voice went out across space to both the human and Draknari fleets. All ships, this is Captain Burke of the Terra Nova. Stop firing immediately. We have a bigger problem than any war. On the bridge of his flagship, War Commander Kethrak heard the transmission. Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. War Commander. Look at your sensors, Burke replied. That void rift near the moon. It's not a weapon. It's a mistake, and it's going to kill all of us if we don't work together. Kethrak checked his readings. The rift was indeed growing and pulling in matter from across the solar system. More importantly, his scientists confirmed that it was destabilizing space throughout the entire system. Captain Morgan's voice joined the conversation. Draknari fleet, our sensors show the same thing. That rift is the real enemy here. Slowly, the shooting stopped. Ships from both sides held their positions, but the weapons fire ended. On Earth, Dr. Martinez was working frantically. In her lab with Tony Adams, Dan Carter, and Jane Miller. Computer specialist Jane had been running calculations non-stop, trying to find a way to collapse the rift. The void rift is feeding on matter and energy, Lisa explained to her team. Every time it consumes something, it gets stronger and bigger. Can we reverse the process? Asked physicist Dan Carter. I don't know, Lisa admitted. We never planned for this. Our equations didn't predict that the rifts could become self-sustaining. Tony looked up from his computer. Dr. Martinez, I'm getting a communication request from one of the alien ships. Put them through. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and wise. It was Elder Santher, calling from his diplomatic ship. Dr. Martinez, this is Elder Santher. My scientists have been studying your void rift. We may be able to help. Please, Lisa said. We're running out of time. The key is to understand that your rift is not just a hole in space. It has become a living tear in reality itself. To close it, we need to convince it to heal. Lisa was confused. Convince it? It's just a physics phenomenon. Not anymore, Sander explained. Your void rifts work by accessing higher dimensions. In those dimensions, space behaves more like a living thing than empty void. Paul Chun, the team's translator who had been monitoring alien communications, suddenly spoke up. Dr. Martinez, I think I understand. The aliens are saying that space can heal itself, like a cut in skin, but only if we give it the right conditions. Working together across the communication link, human and alien scientists began to develop a solution. Lisa provided the technical details of how the void drive worked, while Sonther's team explained the deeper physics that humans had never understood. We need to create a resonance field that encouraged the rift to collapse, explained one of Sonther's scientists. Like playing the right music to calm an angry animal. Jane Miller worked with the alien computers to calculate the exact frequency needed. Dan Carter figured out how to modify the Terra Nova's void drive to generate the resonance field instead of opening new rifts. But there was a problem. The Terra Nova was trapped too close to the rift to generate the field safely. If we try this from here, the resonance might tear our ship apart, Engineer Parker warned. Then we need another ship to generate the field from a safe distance. Captain Burke said. War-Commander Kethrak's voice suddenly joined the conversation. My flagship has powerful energy generators. We can create your resonance field. Everyone was surprised. The Draknari commander who had come to attack was now offering to help. Why would you help us? Burke asked. Because, Kethrak replied, if that rift destroys your solar system, the damage will spread across dozens of other systems, including mine. Working together, the human and alien ships formed a plan. Elder Sonther's diplomatic ship would provide the technical expertise. The Terra Nova would relay signals from inside the rift. Kethrak's warship would generate the resonance field. And Earth's defense fleet would provide additional power if needed. All ships ready, Captain Morgan reported. Beginning resonance field generation, Kethrak announced. The Draknari flagship began to glow with strange energy. Waves of force spread out from the ship toward the void rift. At first, nothing happened. Then slowly, the rift's edges began to shimmer and waver. It's working, Parker shouted from the Terra Nova. The rift is starting to collapse. But the process wasn't smooth. The rift fought back, sending out bursts of energy that shook ships across the solar system. Resonance. Field is unstable, Kethrak reported. We need more power. All human ships divert power to the Draknari vessel. Admiral Harper ordered from Earth. One by one, Earth's defense ships formed a chain, sending their energy to boost Kethrak's resonance field. It was the first time human and alien technology had ever worked together. Slowly, carefully, the void rift began to close. The purple and silver light that had swirled at its edges started to fade. The pole that had been consuming asteroids grew weaker. Rift collapse at 70%, Jane. Miller reported 80%, 90%. With a sound like thunder that somehow carried through the vacuum of space, the void rift snapped closed and disappeared. Cheers went up on ships throughout the solar system. Humans and aliens had worked together to save everyone from destruction. 3 days later, representatives from Earth met with the Galactic Council in a peaceful ceremony. Lisa Martinez stood before the assembled aliens, no longer as an unknown scientist, but as Earth's first representative to the Council's Science Division. The void drive technology will be studied jointly by human and alien scientists, President Desara announced. Together, we will develop safe FTL travel that combines human innovation with galactic wisdom. Captain Burke was chosen to lead humanity's first official interstellar exploration mission. His new ship would use hybrid technology that was both faster and safer than the original Void drive. War Commander Kethrak, surprisingly, became one of Earth's strongest supporters on the Council. Any species brave enough to risk everything for scientific discovery deserves our respect, he declared. Elder Soundthir smiled as he watched the ceremony. The crisis that could have destroyed the galaxy had instead brought together two very different species. Humans had learned their greatest strength, their willingness to take risks, needed to be balanced with wisdom and caution. And the galaxy had learned that sometimes the most dangerous discoveries could lead to the most wonderful partnerships. Years later, when children across the galaxy learned about the day humans almost tore apart reality itself, they also learned about the day that courage and wisdom worked together to heal the damage and build something better than either species could have achieved alone.